My dear Evernine, I have sent you approximately 2,920 and a half letters without receiving a single reply. You mad, girl? In 1880, a man traveled west to prove himself worthy of the affection of the most beautiful girl he knew. For the next 3 years, he would write on average 4 letters a day, with occasionally a telegram or two which would usually say the following: Made it. Stop. I'm still alive. Stop. 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 LOL. But for the almost 3,000 letters sent back east to 577 Eastport, Boston, Massachusetts, he never received a single reply. Odysseus Tucker was destined to live a life of unlucky adventures. He became an orphan just 2 weeks before he was born, forcing his Aunt Jack and Uncle Cynthia to raise him as one of their own, despite already having 15 children. Bullied by his fellow classmates for his clumsiness, young Odie was instantly an outsider and the resident dork. But his life was about to change for the better. Hitting puberty years before his classmates, Odysseus became infatuated with a young girl in his class named Evernine Tenpenny. Being the only boy who didn't think Evernine possessed cooties and smallpox, Odie and Evernine became inseparable, until she gave him smallpox. My contagious Evernine, it seems that these cooties that you gave me truly are a disease to take seriously. I have small, pox-like sores all over my body, and they itch terribly. I would have rather you given me smallpox instead. Itchily yours, Odie. As the years went by, Odysseus's puppy love for Evernine grew to stupidly high heights, only for Evernine's affection to shrink down to the size of a bunny's spleen. He passionately wrote love letters and poems to her, often sending them without proofreading them first. My dearest Evernine, my hearth bears fatter with every second. The Tenpennys were one of the 6 richest families in the New England area, tracing their family tree back to the Mayflower. The Tuckers came to America only a few years later, but as indentured servants. It took decades for the Tuckers to climb the grimy ladder of society before Odysseus could enter the Tenpenny mansion as a guest and not as the staff. Odie was not lost to the sacrifices it took for him to attend the party of his dear Evernine. As I stood in the foyer, it dawned on me that my foremothers and 5 fathers worked their fingers to the grindstone just so that I could eat clear soup with a shiny spoon. #blessed. Odysseus Tucker, 1879. The Tenpennys rubbed elbows with the likes of Herman Quillerman, Madame Debut, and Mrs. Larkingtail. But young Odie found the upper crust of society to be flaky, especially Evernine's mother, Mrs. Frederica Tenpenny, or as her frenemies called her, the Tiger Queen. But the Tiger Queen had already picked out a worthy marital arrangement for her 17-year-old daughter in the 85-year-old train tycoon Cretan von Gout. Von Gout had been a man of action for so long, dedicating his life to the chase of the dollar, that he was finally ready to settle down and have a family. There is a mutual understanding between myself and Mr. von Gout in regards to courting Evernine. While I can woo her by quoting Shakespeare, he actually knew him. But Odysseus Tucker was going to give Evernine an ultimatum at the party, writing in his diary that morning, "Tonight my party game will be fire. #game on." As the party guests began dancing to the newest waltz in the country, Odysseus Tucker made his move and forever seared himself into the memory of the Tenpennys. While historians have painstakingly tried to recreate the events, the truth remains unclear. What is clear is that just before asking Evernine to dance, young Odysseus tripped and knocked over a candle onto the rug. Trying to recover from his fall, he spun around and knocked over a tray of alcohol, which jumped onto the fire. What happened next is unknown, though the result was clear. What took 50 years of architecture and artistic vision to bring the Tenpenny estate to life took young Tucker only 2 hours to turn to ash. My dear Smokin' Hot, see what I did there? Evernine. I am so sorry that I burned down your family's house and accidentally threw your cat outside the window. I forgot we were on the second story and I was trying to save her life. I have come to the morose conclusion that I have not earned your love. However, like the phoenix of Arizona, I will rise from these ashes a new and improved man. I am heading out west in search of fame and fortune. Perhaps you will read about my exploits in the paper. I will write to you every day, chronicling my adventures as I seek to win the approval of you and your family. And win your hand away from that crusty old Cretan von Gout. Discouragingly yours, Odie. Boarding the Boston 64, owned by Cretan von Gout himself, Odysseus Tucker left his friends and family and journeyed out west. Perhaps this iron horse shall lead me to my destiny, where I will find fame and fortune, and prove my worth to you, my dear Evernine. So far it has given me what they call railroad sickness, something which happens when your body is in motion. I have lost my appetite and twice purged the contents of my stomach onto a traveling nun. Nauseously yours, Odysseus. Made it to Bison Chip, Wyoming. Stop. One thing I'll never do, stop, is stop loving you. Stop. Odysseus arrived in Wyoming in the spring of 1879. Two American icons, the cowboy and the buffalo, still roam the plains in coexistence. But there was a different creature that played in the prairie that caught young Odie's eye. Yellow journalism had claimed that prehistoric creatures were still alive in the untamed West, printing fantastical pictures on the front page. But no one back east believed the papers, calling them false news. But the claims persisted, calling Wyoming a land that time seemed to have forgotten, or something like that. However, young Odysseus's brain, which had not yet fully developed, failed to understand. My dear Evernine, what a darned odd land this Wyoming is. The American bison, which I have heard so much about, seems to come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And if they lose their fur coat, they seem to possess the scaly skin, and grow different shapes of horns. And while some of the birds seem to be quite small, I have found a group that shot down a bird longer than the length of 6 men. And frying it with 11 herbs and spices that this captain from Kentucky has come up with seems to produce a most delicious meal. Antediluvianly yours, Odysseus. Searching for work, Odysseus found an opening on the Ithaca Ranch, run by a giant of a man named Stripes McGregor. Standing at 7 feet tall, McGregor claimed to be a long-lost relative to the Canadian giant Paul Bunyan. But it wasn't just his stature that made him a giant in Wyoming. Stripes McGregor made many trips to Washington, D.C. on behalf of ranchers across the state. My dear Evernine, I have landed my first job out here in the Wild West, and I know you'll be proud of me. The opportunity landed in my lap quite literally. I was snorkeling my sorrows in a Virgin Shirley temple when I heard a kerfuffle behind me. Out here in the West, it is called a barroom brawl, but just imagine a kerfuffle at Mrs. Bodder's parlor, and you get the idea. Profanities and fists flying simultaneously when Mr. McGregor fell back onto my lap, crushing the chair beneath me, as well as my femur bone. Feeling guilty for my injuries, he has offered me a job as a ranch hand. So now, dear Evernine, you can write to me at Ithaca Ranch, Wyoming, zip code 809. Optimistically yours, Odysseus. But Odysseus's luck would soon run out. Stripes McGregor declared a range war with the infamous Toad Hogle. Wyoming became trapped in the clash of two cattle titans. Never one to stay and fight, Odysseus soon packed his things and headed off to California. My dear Evernine, it seems that there has been a line drawn in Wyoming between Stripes and Toad, and there are no spectators in this blood sport. Many times have I taken my horse down the old town road until I cannot ride him anymore, only to find another skirmish has occurred. I thought about staying and proving my worth to your parents by battling these no-good sidewinders with honor. However, in the extreme likelihood that I may die for a cause I do not give a flying giant chicken for, I am moving to California. They say there is gold there, and what better way to win your heart of gold than to be up to my eyelashes in gold dust? Fleetingly yours, Odysseus. Traveling by stagecoach, Odysseus headed further west to San Francisco. The trails were rugged, unpaved, and riddled with outlaws. He was held up 5 consecutive times. Resorting to any piece of paper he could find, lovesick Odysseus continued to recount his adventures to the phlegmatic Evernine. Finding whatever ink he could find, even creating his own from the ashes of a campfire and the spray of a skunk, Odysseus poured the sweet smell of love into his letters. Dearest Evernine, it has been over a year since I have seen your face or read anything you've put to paper. I beg of you to write back. Give me some sign that you have not married that ghastly and ghostly Von Cretan. I want you to marry someone you can grow old together with, preferably me. Disheartenedly yours, Odysseus. Arriving in San Francisco penniless and friendless, Odysseus was beginning to doubt this life-changing pilgrimage. But the glamour of the city brought back cheerful memories of back east, filling his heart with nostalgia and jolly. No more were there range wars, giant cowboys, and bison of unusual size. It was there in the horse-apple-smeared streets of San Fran that Odysseus Tucker felt at home. Dear hopefully still mine Evernine, San Francisco is a breath of fresh air. Not literally, due to the stench of horse refuse in the streets and on the bottom of everyone's shoes, but a metaphysical breath of fresh air. There's not a cowboy in sight, only city folks like me. There are stores, trains, and dance halls. Who knew at the end of this wild, wild west lay some semblance of civilization? You can write to me in San Francisco now, so I can hear about your life. It feels like forever since my lips touched your gloved right hand. Thankfully yours, Odysseus. But in order to get the gold of San Francisco, one had to leave the city limits and head for the hills. The gold mines of San Francisco were more volatile than the dynamite that went off every 3¼ minutes. Men lost their lives, limbs, got the black lung, and that was all on a Tuesday. As rugged as the cowboys in Wyoming were, the miners turned it up to an 11. My dear Evernine, I am currently writing this letter from a tunnel of a gold mine. However, this mine seems to be empty of anything other than fools and fools' gold. Once again, I got the shaft. That's a miner's joke. But have no fear, I've gathered a large amount of dynamite, and I plan on blowing this tunnel and my future wide open. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel! After blowing up a gold mine and putting 30 miners out of work, Odysseus was run out of the hills and back into the city. Looking for a change of scenery, Odysseus Tucker boarded the Trixie Streamer, a New Orleans-bound riverboat. Riverboats were known to be a hotbed of gamblers, ne'er-do-wells, and boxers. My dearest Evernine, I am returning home. My travels have proven to be futile, fruitless, and frankly unenjoyable. I have brought no honor to my name, no fortune. I have nothing to bring your parents as proof of my worth, and I have caused way too many fires. At least 3 too many. I am now aboard a really fancy boat, drowning my sorrows in the tears in my pillow. Soakingly yours, Odysseus Tucker. However, Odysseus Tucker's luck was about to change. During a game of cards, Odysseus found himself at a table of professional gamblers, one of whom went by the name of Trissandra Penelope Phil, a world-renowned gambler and the only woman allowed at the table. My dear Evernine, it is rare to see a woman playing poker, a true man's game. But turns out women's nimble fingers are just perfect for holding the cards and chips. Trissandra is a striking woman who holds her cards how other women hold fans on a hot summer's day. But Trissandra is no graceful lady, and some of the other gamblers have said she is like one of the guys. If one of the guys wore a dress and makeup. Quite ludicrous if you think about it. Money had changed tables on the Trixie Streamer, and Odysseus found himself richer than he had ever been before, beating out professional gambler after professional gambler. Until he squared off against Trissandra. Feeling lucky and male superiority, Odysseus went all in during a game, only to lose everything to Trissandra with a full house. After accusing Trissandra of cheating, Odysseus was shocked to get a strong right hook to the jaw and a mouthful of curse words only a man could know. Trissandra's voice also lowered 2 octaves. My dear Evernine, luck has once again kicked me in the ham and slapped my face. I was this close to enough money to impress both you, your family, and begin a life of luxury when I risked it all for double or nothing. But Trissandra turned out to be the better player. But that's not all Trissandra turned out to be. Turns out, when I accused her of cheating at poker, she punched me with such force that I fell backwards out of my chair. Then Trissandra's voice lowered. She ripped the sleeves from her dress to reveal hairy arms and tattoos of anchors, kegs of beer, and a cartoonish-looking duck. Upon further investigation, Trissandra admitted to being the world-famous male poker player Reginald Roque, thought to have been deceased. I just wonder how he could have deceived us so well, if only there had been a clue to his true identity. Once again looking for a fresh start, Odysseus landed in Texas just a few miles away from an Apache camp. Joining Minister Crawley, Odysseus decided to stop chasing his own ambitions and take some time to give back. Upon seeing his first Apache, Odysseus feverishly wrote back to Evernine. My dearest Evernine, growing up we heard constantly about the savages out west and their red skin. But I must confess that after meeting some Apache, I find their skin tone not to be red at all, but more brown or bronze. And as far as their level of savageness, I think it has all been a heap big misunderstanding. You see, Apache do not roast a white man on a spit over a fire, but rather roast him verbally with great insults and jovial ribbing. One chief in particular can cut you down to size with remarks ranging from your appearance to your mental and physical abilities. Now I am questioning everything I have been told about other races. Are there any inferior human races as we have been told? Confusedly yours, Odysseus Tucker. Settling into the Apache tribe, Odysseus proved to be a help in Minister Crawley's budding church there. While the Navajos seemed to be more charismatic in their religious practices, the Apache were attracted to the Baptist denomination, forming committees, singing without moving their bodies, and even bringing foods in pots to share with others. Odysseus fell in love with the place and the people, specifically a young woman named iPod Nano, or her chosen Christian name, Susan. The remaining 200 letters that Odysseus sent to Evernine consist of descriptions of Susan and her family, each growing more and more affectionate until the very last one. My dear Evernine, you may have noticed that I've been talking a little bit about this young woman named Susan. If you will consult the last 199 letters I have sent you, you may recall her name appearing every few sentences. Well, it turns out that my affection seems to have drifted more towards her of late, and upon asking permission from her father Steve Apple, I have asked Susan to marry me. Therefore, I think it is highly inappropriate that I write to you anymore, and I heavily discourage you from writing back. I hope you find someone else, except that old cretin von Gout. No longer yours, Odysseus.